Good morning. I'm Steven Spielberg, the editor-in-chief of DIA Publications, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all here this morning for a discussion of a very important topic, that of clinical trial transparency and of data sharing. In 1785, Immanuel Kant begins his fundamental principles of the metaphysics of morals with "Nothing can be conceived in the world or even without it, which can be called good without qualification, except a good will." From this, he develops a concept of a categorical imperative to treat all of humankind only as ends, never as means to ends. And from this, we have derived our concepts of human autonomy and human dignity, which form the bedrock of the ethics of clinical investigation, of informed consent. For medicine and therapeutics, integrity is the underpinning of all we do, and little is more important than the integrity of the data and the information on which clinical decisions are made. It's our expectation that our clinical trials will provide physicians and patients valid data to support clinical decision-making, to select the correct medicine or other intervention, to understand how to assess positive and potentially negative outcomes. The therapeutic relationship between patient and physician, the ability to practice true shared decision-making, depends on public confidence in the science and in the medical enterprise. Every time that trust is breached, and we hear about it in the media frequently, those who lose the most are those whose very lives are dependent on the honesty and the validity of the biomedical enterprise. Thus, this discussion of data transparency and data sharing is timely indeed. Our panelists today, who I'll introduce in a moment, will be talking about the recent Institute of Medicine report about data sharing and beyond. There's little doubt that the move towards increased data transparency will continue to advance and evolve. The questions that we'll be looking at are how to assure wise implementation to create a new level of confidence, to improve the credibility of all that we do in the eyes of the public that we serve. I hope we'll be able to touch on some of the expected contributions of transparency and of data sharing, how it will help, what the database is that in fact it does help, as well as to highlight some of the risks to areas such as patient confidentiality, perhaps issues of opportunity costs of reanalyzing data rather than generating new data, and perhaps to some continued confusion and maybe even decreased credibility as data are continuously reanalyzed, sometimes well and sometimes perhaps not so well. And I hope at the end we'll have an understanding of how we can develop a process that leads to improved health care and health of our population. And I hope our discussion can indeed highlight some of the paths for assuring that this process does indeed do exactly that.